All right, good day everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Manifest podcast, as we always have every single Sunday. You know, the Manifest podcast is designed specifically to help restore the profile of authentic masculinity. And I'm so excited in this episode, like the previous 3 or so episodes, we've been in the same studio. So I'm here with PI, Ifeanyi Okeke. So good to have you once again. Thank you so much for all the insight, all the contributions, and everything you've always been bringing and everything. So good to see you in the flesh.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you. It's always a pleasure. Then having you physically in the studio, my God, is something else. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So you're welcome to this episode, another amazing episode of Manifest. And as usual, fasten your seatbelt because you're going to be blown away.
Amen.
Remember,
Amen.
Share this thing, share. In fact, share it now. Everybody, tell them to join this podcast right now.
Exactly.
Because something is going to happen to you. Believe me.
Wow. So remember when you're going online, you're going to YouTube, look for Manifest_tribe. All right, Manifest_tribe. You're going to find so many things on Manifest. There's Manifest this, Manifest that, tribe this, tribe that. And some of them push occultism and spiritism and all that. I'm not sure that's what you're looking for, and so we're not advertising that in whatever way. Please go to Manifest_tribe. You'll find that on YouTube. And obviously the logo as well is a lion. A blue lion is a depiction of a lion. If you look carefully, you'll see it's a lion. All right. If you look carefully, it's a drawing, a depiction of a lion in blue. That's what the logo is. You find it on our screen. As we speak now, you find the logo on the screen. Look for that logo before you subscribe to anything out there. All right. Thank you so much for joining in. And like BI has said, share this link with everyone you know. Invite them to sit down as we move into this. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this episode. We give you praise as we're about to launch deeper into deeper waters. Grant us insight. Grant us understanding. Open our eyes and equip us, Father, for this time, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, so we're going to be talking about compatibility. All right, so compatibility as a principle of choosing a life partner. Compatibility. Okay, so you know what compatibility is basically, yeah? So the way I like to say it is this. In life, you can't make progress without friction. There must be a commensurate level of friction in order to make any significant progress. Okay? Everything you see, every progress you enjoy or results of progress usually are tied to certain types of friction. You're wearing clean clothes if you're listening to me now because friction made that possible. Whenever you put your clothes in a washing machine or you decide to use your hands to wash those clothes, it is friction. The friction within the machine or the friction between your hands that make the clothes separate, the water and the soap separate the dirt from the clothes. All right? That's what happens, and that's why you have clean clothes. If you're able to press the clothes and make them look nice, starched and nice, well pressed, well ironed, it's because friction made that possible. The heat on the iron rubbing across the fabric and produced that thing you saw that made you look very smart. You brush your mouth, you brush your teeth, it's because friction made it possible. Friction is rubbing your toothbrush with the paste against your enamel to clean it out and to get the bacteria out. So literally everything you think about, you drive your car, to start the car, friction is what makes that happen. The pistons are rubbing against the metal and you have to pour engine oil to lubricate the thing so that you don't have problems in the engine. When you stop your car, you feel the tires are very hot because they've been rubbing against the road, the tire, to make this happen. You cook your food, all the condiments you put inside are boiling and mixing everything. Friction is making that happen. You get that food, that beautiful meal that you're eating or you want to eat is a product of friction. So you see, friction makes literally anything happen. There has to be friction. However, that friction must be constructive. when friction moves from being constructive to being destructive, that's when all hell breaks loose. You see, compatibility is about generating constructive friction. The principle of compatibility in marriage is going to ensure that when two people from disparate backgrounds, different orientations, upbringings that are as diverse as, beans is from rice, come together, constructive friction is what will determine the extent to which they get molded as one unit and the extent to which they make progress. All right? So compatibility creates more areas of commonality, thereby boosting constructive friction. So the less the areas of compatibility, the more the likelihood of destructive friction. I hope you're following what we're talking about, yeah? The more the areas of commonality, the less the likelihood of destructive friction. All right? So it's a very important point. So we're going to be looking at compatibility here. And 8 unique areas of compatibility, 8 distinct areas of compatibility, and how you're going to ensure, you must ensure that they are in place before you take a plunge into your marriage. And if, for example, you're already married and you find that you're lacking in some of these areas of compatibility, the good news is that a number of them can be worked on. So you need to know those things you need to work on so that you can have a marriage that can be admired, a marriage that can be something that will end up being an influence to as many people as possible. So in this particular series we've been running is about principles of choosing a life partner. Okay? And whether you're male or female, this applies to you. It cuts across both ways. And this is not a marriage podcast. However, we're doing this for the benefit of other people because it also helps us in the area of authentic masculinity and how a person should be a good man, a good husband, a good son, a good father, and so on and so forth. So Pierre, talk to us about a little more about compatibility.
Okay. Now remember, any point that hits you, write it in the comment section.
Yes.
Just write it, post it inside of it. And so this is so critical. This I find is one of the major principles for choosing a life partner.
Yeah.
Because when there is no compatibility, as you said, the friction becomes destructive.
Yes.
Because the people don't have anything in common. I like to think about it like I have a tablet here. Different products, like an Apple product has a different power cable.
Yes.
An Android product has a different power cable, right? So if you try to use an Android cable, which is a USB, on the Apple that uses mostly lightning cables, it's not going to work. And if you force it, you're going to break something.
True.
It's more like putting square pegs in round holes and all that. So a lot of times there's a lot of friction that ends up tearing that marriage apart. So it's important that before you get married, check these areas of compatibility that we're about to show you now. Make sure that both of you can flow together. You are at least at the same frequency, so you can reduce your wahala.
Very powerful, very important point. Very important point. Very important point. You reduce the thing, So very important point. All right. So the first area of compatibility we're going to be looking at is spiritual compatibility. Please talk to us a little about spiritual compatibility.
Now, spiritual compatibility, it basically means marry someone of the same faith, as you. For a simple reason, beliefs are heavy, beliefs are strong, and convictions, these things are deep. Like you talked about the subconscious, what a person believes is very, very important.
Yeah.
And like we said, their value system too, because the values come from your belief system.
Yes.
Values. If you believe that there's a God, the implication is that you also believe there's accountability.
True.
The implication is that you believe, like we talked about in the previous episodes, that you want to do whatever pleases this person. those things have very, very wide implications from a person that says there is no God. If you go ahead and get married, you're going to have a very big problem. You know. So if you are a traditional worshiper, you say this your own, find somebody that is in that field, marry the person. You will do well.
If you're a traditional worshiper and your God is always angry, your God is always angry. When rain falls, because your God is angry. When sun shines, because the gods are angry. You know, and you can appease this your God with cola nuts, and you can give him alligator pepper. That is the size of his appetite. You know, marry someone that thinks that same way, and you end up with no problem.
This is your problem.
This is your problem. If you have a God who is the type that if somebody is hungry and makes a mistake and takes something that you cut off his hand, you know, marry some other person who believes in giving people short sleep for eating. You know, that's and it makes it very easy.
Very easy.
Because you see, the truth of the matter is this: in spiritual compatibility, there are two different branches.
Yes, sir.
Two arms of spiritual compatibility. All right. There's first spiritual homogeneity generally. So there's first having a similar spiritual nature. So, which is what we just talked about.
Yes.
If you're a Muslim, marry a Muslim.
Simple.
And don't disturb anybody.
Simple.
You're a Christian, marry somebody, not just a nominal Christian. If someone is a nominal Christian, let him stay with his nominal. You know, people, nominal Christians who say, okay, I am a Christian because I was born into the church. I'm a Christian because it's what I just feel. And when they say religion, my parents believe that there's somebody called Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ, you know, we just, when we were growing up, they taught us to say that thing they call Apostles' Creed. You know, so I'm just a Christian. Marry someone that's just a Christian like you.
Like that.
Just like that.
And they'll do very well.
You do well with all the things. You think that the Bible is a book of fairy tales, just be fairy tailing together. You know, it becomes easier for everyone. You know,
there's no argument.
There's no argument there.
Every time.
Yes. So, but if you are a genuine believer, you're a child of God, a disciple of Jesus Christ, find someone who is a disciple of Jesus Christ as well. Okay? The wise man said, if God is your father, you don't want to end up marrying someone who doesn't subscribe to God being his father. Because what's going to happen is that the devil-in-law becomes your father-in-law. I mean, the devil becomes your father-in-law. I said devil-in-law. The devil becomes your father-in-law. You know, you want to avoid that situation. All right, so there's similar spiritual nature. But the second arm is similar spiritual orientation.
Yes, sir. So let me say something
even
about the similar spiritual nature.
Yes, please.
Now you mentioned nature, I thought about it. I've never seen a baboon meeting an orangutan. I've never seen a tiger meeting a lion. So even in nature, we find it that, you know, this like goes for like.
Yes.
You don't find a lion going after a cheetah, you know, and you don't find an eagle going after a hawk. They always go for their life.
Whenever you have insemination, you know, usually it's because man has introduced something. Because they have seen examples where they've mated lions and tigers and they produce what they call ligers. Massive animals, you know, that are, you know.
But naturally, you will not find those animals.
Naturally.
Yes, sir.
Naturally, they don't.
Yes, sir.
You will not have that, you know. So these things are very important. Nature has been designed that way. Human beings are supposed to walk in that same, you know. And it's a very important point, you know. I also know that people have tried to use this. I've seen people use this argument, for example, you just made, to try to say that marriage between races is wrong and marriage between tribes is wrong. That's not what we're trying to refer to.
But human beings are human beings.
Human beings are human beings. All these distinctions of race and tribe, nonsense. That's not what we're talking about here.
Very important.
It's an important point. So like begetting like marrying like doesn't mean that if you're a white guy, you listen to white supremacists that say you cannot date a black lady. If you're a black man, you can't date a white lady. That's nonsense. That's not what we're saying. Or an Igbo man can't marry a Yoruba lady and all that. No, that's not what we're saying. We're talking about the spiritual nature. Because the distinction spiritually is far, 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 far bigger. A more massive gulf than distinctions physically. Alright? Distinctions spiritually are far bigger And there's so many things to say about that, but we don't have the time. The Bible says, do not be unequally yoked together with an unbeliever. It is considered an unequal yoke. It is unequal. It cannot be equal. That's God's idea. That's what is in the Bible. Because nature is critical. Okay? Nature is a product of origin, not physical origin. Spiritual origin. Nature is a product of spiritual origin. And it is origin that determines destination. Alright? Origin determines everything. It determines destination and everything in between. Very important point.
Now, sir, there's that place Jesus said, you are of your father,
the devil, yes.
And the desires of your father you would fulfill. So now you said nature comes from origin. It means that the desires that the person has, the guy wants to club, the guy wants to do this. Yes, the desire is coming from somewhere.
Yes.
So if you don't have the same father and the same nature,
you're going
to keep arguing.
That's a very important
point. Let's go to the club. No, what are you going to do in the
club?
A very
important
point. Club. Let's smoke. No.
Yeah.
You keep fighting.
So there are desires that are a product of nature.
Yes, sir.
Who you carry in you is who determines your desires. So you see, the Bible tells us, apart from this John chapter 8 you just quoted now, you see the Bible tells us, apart from John 8:44, you see what the Bible speaks expressly in the book of Philippians chapter 2. Where it says, walk out your salvation with fear and trembling. It now says in the very next verse, for it is God who is at work in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. The will there is the desire. Some translations actually put it that way. It is God who is working through you to desire and to act upon or act out his good pleasure. So that you even desire to do a good thing is not a product of you being a good person. It's that the nature has changed. It comes from within. So there are people who have a genuine fear of God, are children of God that have the fear of God. Now we're going to speak concerning those who don't have the fear of God, because there are some things that can happen, and it can make a person lose the fear of God. So you can have some Christians who are Christians but living like unbelievers. There was a time even I, as a believer, as a Christian, even as a pastor, there are some standards I created for myself on the basis of certain things I had been hearing, certain friends I had kept. And so I became loose in certain areas. Offended God in certain areas I should not have. That's me, my personal confession. I'm saying it, But it's a result of the second part, which is spiritual orientation.
Yes, sir.
Who you surround yourself with, what you hear. I had friends who were preaching a certain type of message that we call now hyper grace theology, where anything goes. And unconsciously, without realizing it, those things entered my subconscious, which is what we spoke about in one of the previous episodes about the subconscious. Who you surround yourself with. So, spiritual orientation. Marry someone with a similar spiritual orientation. Someone who goes to, is much better. Okay, you're going to marry someone who is born again, like you. It's also better to find someone that grows up within the same assembly, exposed to the same type of message, even if it's not the same church. Let it be the same tribe. There are ministers of the gospel who are within certain tribes. You can tell from the message they preach. You see, in the ministry, for example, we have certain people that the people invite very comfortably. You can very easily listen to them. You want to listen to Aroma Osai, for example, very easily listen to Michael Oropo, all these other people. Very, very easily listen to them. Because these are people who honor him, and not just because they honor him, but they speak the same language, they are within the same tribe. So you expose yourself to their teachings, it's the same thing. It's just a different person with a different personality and a different touch, with probably slightly different perspective, adding some light to the very same factor, the same component being discussed.
But at the core.
But the core is the same thing. So you want to be able to make it, and the way I see it is that, spiritual orientation is so important because, so that we don't take too much time on this. There are some people who, for example, go to churches where they are very, very big. The dogma is very, very big on women covering their hair, women not wearing trousers, all right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also nothing wrong with a woman who doesn't cover her hair and wears trousers, as long as the trousers are decent, not wearing skimpy things and so on. There's the devil's apparel, Babylon's apparel. You don't want to go near those kind of things. Okay? You're a lady, you want to wear trousers, things that are loose fitting. You're endowed in certain areas. Don't let that be the focus. The dress should not be the focus of that thing. Put something that can be moderate, that can help you cover yourself properly, so that when people think about you, they don't objectify you. That's the point. What the Bible teaches is not cover hair, wear trousers, not wear trousers. All those things have been misunderstood and misquoted, taken out of context. The point is moderation.
Yes,
moderation.
Yes,
Paul said to Timothy, let your modesty be known to all men. Moderation. Very important, you know. So there's that. So you have the situation where somebody is in a church where that is the norm. You must cover your hair, you must. And then you don't wear earrings. Some don't even use body spray, aftershave, none of those things. You don't use cologne, nothing. Then you now come from there, you want to marry someone that is in another, so you now force her into a mold that she's not comfortable with. You're going to have problems. There's really no need for all that. If you are where you are, then it's good for you, you like it. So be there. Find someone that is also within that system. There are people within that system, that circle. Find them too. And it's good for all of you. Everybody goes to heaven. After all, it's one camp of Israel. Not everybody was in the same camp.
Yes, sir.
Some were in the tribe of Judah, some in the tribe of Levi. Even Levi had different camps again inside Levi. You know? So it's a very important point. Spiritual orientation, very important. What is this person exposed to?
More problems.
Yes.
More problems.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
You believe in tithe, you don't believe in tithe, you go and marry this person, both of you start arguing about it. You know, I don't believe in honoring. You know, funny different things that people argue about. You know, so it's better find someone that has the same meaning with you, someone that is hearing what you are hearing, someone that is being taught what you are being taught. You are safer that way.
It makes it so much easier for you.
All the friction and all the argument and all the fight.
Yeah.
You know.
So let's do that. Let's put that into perspective. If you're not born again, please find someone. Don't look for a church girl to corrupt. Find someone who is just like you and you who can continue your fellowship together. Very important. All right. So the next kind of compatibility is intellectual compatibility. Why is this important?
Sir, this is so critical because you need to marry someone that thinks at the same frequency as you. You know, I was telling my wife one of those days, I think it was after we got married or before, I was telling her, I think it was after we got married, I told her, I said, there are certain movies I watch, you know, I don't have any problem. Then, even though now there's been a lot of improvements, and I have nothing against it,
Yes.
you know, but then I never used to watch Nigerian movies, even till now, you know. Then it was worse because sometimes just realize that if you didn't put thoughts into it, you just sometimes you are still trying to understand the story like the movie has ended, you know. So there are movies I like to watch that task my mind, you know, and all that. So I was telling her, I jokingly said that I didn't want, maybe I'm watching a movie and they crack a joke and I'm laughing. Then I turn and look at her, she's not laughing, you know. Then I have to pause it and then explain to her what they said, and then she now laugh her own laugh, and then both of us will laugh together. We continue.
You know, that's the thing I keep on saying. This thing you said is what I've always said. I've always said over the years. You know, that it was very important to me. You know, not to have a wife that you're watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air together or something, and then you're laughing and she's looking at you wondering, why is this guy laughing? You know, you have to be able to get someone who is at part. So you don't have to interpret the joke, because that's what it is. You translate the joke. You become a translator. You translate the joke for her to she said, okay, and she begins to laugh. Ha 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 ha, and you join her and you begin to laugh. No, that's not. That was a very important point to me. You know, and talking about Nigerian movies, I'm sure they are doing much better.
No, they are way better now.
I don't think I've had much time to watch movies. And you know, if I do have the time, I would, you know, look at one or two of them. And I don't have the time. But in those days, it was a no-no for me. You know, all those days when you go out, you know, somebody you go to watch, you know, you go to a hotel in New York, you know, and you enter the hotel, and then the receptionist talking to you. Above the head of the receptionist is a picture of President Obasanjo, you know, in New York, and you're wondering, how did this happen? Or there's a flashback. There's a flashback. Somebody's in a village. Something that happened in 1995, and somebody's driving a 2005 Land Cruiser in 1995. You're just wondering, you know, how do people do this kind of thing? You know, but they've gotten much better.
Yeah, no, they've grown.
So for me, you know, the important thing was, you know, about finding someone who could match my intellect. Because, not because we're trying to be exclusive. No. But the importance, the core of relationship building is communication.
Yes, sir.
So blood is to the body what communication is to the relationship. Drain the body of blood, you will have the same effect as when you drain the relationship of communication. Both die. The body dies, the relationship dies. That's how it works. So you're going to have somebody who you can converse with at a certain level. The person understands what you're saying. It has nothing to do with the person's level of education.
No. It's not education. It's not just
IQ has nothing to do with education. There are people who have PhDs that, you know, I would rather not be in a room with. When they talk, you wonder, how does this person reason? There are people I've seen like that. Professors that use, like, what is this? There are people that have no certificates that when you talk with them, you learn so much from them, and you enjoy their company. You learn a lot from them. That's what we're talking about. So the level,
almost like exercising your intellectual muscles.
Exactly. So the person's worldview, you know, that's what IQ is about. Intelligence quotient, you know, and exposure in many cases also helps. Exposure helps. So you won't find someone who has, you know, you're compatible with intellectually, because that's that. If not, you're going to have a lot of problems. The third one is about emotional compatibility. Can you speak a little to that?
It's the way you connect with a person. You know, there's the element of attraction in it. You know, because I always say that when you talk about purpose, you're talking about the part God has.
Yes.
You know, fulfilling the plan of God for the marriage. When it comes to emotional compatibility, you're talking about attraction. You connect with this person, you know, at the emotional level. The attraction is the physical side. I'm talking about that emotional connection. You know, whether you connect with this person at a certain level. It's not just something shallow. You understand? You are connecting with this person at that level. Yes, sir.
Very important point. So emotional connections have to do with you and the person. Emotional connections have to do with you know, there's an affinity, a connection at heart. You know, there are different types of love, different words define love in the Bible. One of them is filial, that's affection. That you can converse with someone, and there's a kindred spirit, there's an affinity, there's a basis upon which you can have fruitful and wholesome conversation. And apart from that, there's that emotional connection. You know, you like this person, you like your time with this person. That has to be, you know, and that is about emotional quotient. The person having an emotional quotient, and the person you are attracted to emotionally. Yes. Now, somebody who might not necessarily have your love language as their language, but at least the person speaks that language, or at the very least understands it. You see, because even in love languages, there are 5 love languages like Gary Chapman told us. Each language has its own dialect. There are different dialects. There are dialects of giving. There are dialects of affirmation. There are dialects of touch. Different types. You know, some people will some ladies might appreciate being touched at the back, rubbed at the back. For some, it might be an insult that you're calling her a little girl, rubbing her. Maybe it's on her cheek, she prefers it. or whatever it is, you know. These are some don't like being rubbed on their head, some others love different things. You need to know what some others is their feet. You need to know what works for each person,
Yes.
and be ready to speak that dialect, you know. Some people like different things, you know. I don't want to sound too erotic, so I'll just leave that, you know.
And so, you know, this thing got me into a lot of trouble when,
Yes.
when we got married initially, you know, because I didn't understand my wife's love language.
Yes.
So I could buy her the whole world. She'll thank me, she'll appreciate me, but that's not what she's looking for. And I got to find, if I one of those days, she told me, she said, one day, it's your laptop, I don't know, something might just, I'm not saying anything will happen, you know, because I wonder who is the first wife, whether it's this laptop or me. And you know, at that time, for one day she said, I got offended, because I didn't really understand. But it was, as we were going on, I realized that the best part of her day is time to just sit down and talk. For her, it's time. Doesn't matter.
Quality time.
Quality time, yes, sir. Do all the things. But let's just sit down and talk, you know, and all that. So when I learned it, I make sure that every day, in fact, there are days we do all night, we just sit down and talk the whole night. And you see her, she's happy, she's fine, and all that, you know. So what you are saying is so important, knowing how, whether you connect with this person at this level, you know, because without it, you see reaction.
Yes, and sometimes you're wondering where these reactions are coming from.
Yes.
But you actually mean well, but there's no connection. The message you're speaking is not registering to the person. You know, so these are very important points. So emotional quotient, you know. Then you know, emotional compatibility. So then we spoke about this. The fourth one is social compatibility.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little about that.
Okay, so social compatibility is basically about background, you know, your background, your social status, even your financial, like where you grew up. So, for example, I'll give you I don't know that I should say this, you know, the kind of background I grew up in, you know, a lot of times the exposure matters, you know, the kind of exposure you've had, even the financial background, you know, if you come from a certain level of financial, maybe you come from a wealthy family, and you're marrying someone. Now, I'm not saying people should not do that, but a lot of times it plays a role, you know. For example, the kind of background I grew up in is very, very similar like my wife's background, you know. She always, I don't know if I should say, she'll tell me that, man, I want to eat my food, I eat my bone. I want to chew the bone of the chicken. That's somebody telling me, ew, I can't stand that. What's that? You know, so those kind of things, we can talk and laugh and yab and do all those things. And then we have a similar social background, we can connect at that level. Yes, sir.
No, but you see, another point to make here is we're not trying to be elitist.
No.
Because that's not the point he's making. Because having social compatibility doesn't necessarily always mean that coming from the same social status, the same cadre of society. No, not necessarily. But being flexible enough to accommodate people from different social status. That's a very important point. Being flexible enough, you know. So that's one aspect. You know, I grew up in Lagos, and some funny thing used to happen, you know, growing up. I look back and I wonder at some things that I used to do, my siblings and I. You know, we would have our father's driver driving us around town, and we'll be looking at people inside Molues, these big buses, yellow buses, driving, commercial buses driving around, and we'll be envying them. Because we'll see them as free. We would always see them bring out their heads to buy gala and buy Sprite and Coke, and we're like, hey, you can't do that from inside this car. So we associated people that, you know, entered there with freedom. So we wanted that freedom. And, you know, I look back and I wanted that freedom. You know, then growing up, my mother, you couldn't buy all this ice cream, fun ice, the people, vendors are selling outside school. If you ever made a mistake of, she's bringing you out of school, going to pick you up, you're leaving primary school, you make the mistake of looking what will follow, you know. So she will finish, take us to Leventis. It was Leventis in those days, and UTC, and buy buckets of ice cream. You go home, you scoop. But for some reason, it's the one that was being sold. That Fanax, that lollipop, that's the one we like. That one was the sweetest. If an uncle came and bought that one for us, that's the one that we wanted, not this other one. Because wherever you are, it would always seem to you that the grass is greener on the other side. That's what you know. So because of that, maybe for me too, I also developed some kind of taste for some other things that you know. So I think the very first time I ever ate outside my house, growing up, I was already in secondary school. I had never eaten in any cafeteria, buka, anything. So it was a state of, it was a big thing for me. It was something enjoyable, you know. So, you know, but because of that also, maybe also because of my personality somehow too, I've also been able to be flexible along the line. Certain things, hard knocks, life will also give you some hard knocks. And then you're able to now be flexible and everything. That sometimes I just come out, all I want to do is just sit down with my agege bread. Agege bread and agoy beans. We never ate that growing up. Never ate that growing up. But I just developed a taste for it. You know, at my adult this thing, I want to go inside the mama pooch and sit down and, you know, and sometimes somebody will be like, what are you doing here? You know, I see people say some things to me that I come around Lagos, I want to do that. You know, I come into the country, I want to do that, you know. So being socially compatible is not necessarily about being on the same cadre with someone. It would help. But more important is that you're able to identify with the person where the person is.
Yes,
and even more important is that in social compatibility, you have similar friends.
That you are proud. Okay, similar friends.
Similar friends. Because in having similar friends, if you marry your wife and you are comfortable with her and not comfortable with her friends, or she's comfortable with you, not comfortable with all your friends, something is seriously wrong. Somebody is acting, somebody is putting up a show. You're either pretending you like her, or she's pretending to be someone she is not. And you like what she's pretending to be. Or it is vice versa. You are pretending to be something you're not, and she likes what you are pretending to be. Because it is those friends that you have around you that are a true indicator of who you are. So if she likes all those friends and doesn't like you, or she likes you and doesn't like all those friends, something is off.
Yes.
Something is completely off. Something is completely off. You know, it's either you are not who your friends are, but you're forcing your way into being them, or you are who they really are, and you are depicting something that you are not. So that's a very important
So
point.
the person that goes ahead to marry that kind of person, you're actually not getting the real.
You're already going to have problems.
Yes.
You're already going to have very serious problems. You know, there are people who act and pretend to be something they are not. That's a different case entirely. Maybe you don't see who their real associates are. I saw a story somewhere about a lady whose husband died. You might have seen that story. I saw it on WhatsApp. And she went to the mortuary to identify her husband, and she was crying seriously. Only for her to get there to find another lady crying over the same corpse. And she asked, "Who are you?" She said, "She's the wife." She discovers this woman was the wife, had other children. She too was a wife, had other children. Shockingly, they discovered a third woman with other children. She decided to find out who this her husband really was. As she was making inquiries, even on the manner of his death and everything, she was trying to find out who he really was, his real name and everything. masked men came to our house about 1 a.m. Of course, they first of all came and stole the body from. So she had discovered 1 or 2 things that, and they want that not to continue. Don't continue for the sake of your life and your children. If you continue crying, we will come and kill all of you. They carry the body and disappear. So she was married to, only God knows what she was married to. Only God knows what she was married to. So obviously he was showing that he was a family man, giving the wrong vibes to please her, to pretend to be something. Only God knows what that guy was. Maybe an assassin, a kingpin in the drug family, or whatever it was. Only God knows. So you want to be sure who the person surrounds themselves with. That you look at them when they are off guard, unguarded moments. Who are the people they are least and they are most affiliated to? They are most affiliated to who they really feel free with, they want to relax with. That's a very serious point.
And how they even relax with the people.
Yes, how they relax with those people.
That means nobody should actually marry a lone ranger.
It's a dangerous thing.
You need to
find out who the person. Don't just say the lone ranger. Find out their social circle. Because even lone rangers have other people that they associate, they talk to. They can't just be around alone. If they are alone, that's a very dangerous person. That's a very dangerous person. You don't want to be around that kind of person. So that's a very important point.
Then also someone you can be proud of when you go out.
Yes. So social compatibility is also somebody who, yes, you can, be proud of in a sense. But that also, we're not trying to say that you should now be ritualistic and be rigid, and sometimes people now want to now start demanding of others what they cannot give. You want the beauty queen who is always this, who is always that, and you are nothing near deserving of that. We have to be very.
And they start putting unnecessary pressure
on someone. That's not what we're talking about. That's a very important point. That's what we're talking about. So, what's the next type of compatibility?
Of course, the vocational compatibility. And 2 things there. First of all, is the calling.
Yes.
What your assignment is. What you say God has called you to do. Like we say, make sure that you are traveling in the same direction with the person.
Yes.
Because it reduces the problem. Like I was talking about the tablets, having different products, having different cables and ports for connecting them. That cord was created to connect with the tablet.
Yes.
They might not even necessarily be sold together.
Yes.
They might be sold separately. For many times, accessories are sold separately. But this particular one fits into this one, And I also want to say something. If you have to change so much to fit into a person's life, you are in the wrong place. That's the essence of compatibility, and all that. So the first is area of your assignment. Find someone. You don't say that both of you must be the same thing, but at least let your what you say you're called to do be complementary. If, for example, like me, from the one I knew I was called into the fivefold ministry, it makes sense that I would also find someone. Doesn't necessarily mean they don't have other things in their destiny they will do, but at least they understand my assignment and they're able to fit into that assignment, and all that. Yes, sir.
Very important point. So it doesn't necessarily mean that by vocational compatibility we are saying that you must be within the same career space with another person.
But it's career and calling.
Yes, career and calling, are 2 different things. However, what we are saying is that the calling should be something you are amenable to, something that you can, you are disposed to following, you're disposed to associating with. That is either your own specific calling or that the person's calling complements yours and yours complements the other person's calling. And then career-wise, vocation-wise, you need to be able to appreciate the person's job and work enough to be able to communicate with the person. Because you see, if that is what they are invested in, then they would put their lives in it. It's important to them. That's why they make an income. And then they have colleagues that they associate with. If you're not talking with them about their job, there's someone they're talking with about their job. So that guy that you want to marry,
and as you said over and over, sharing creates bonding.
Sharing creates bonding. That guy that you want to marry, you don't want him talking with his secretary because you're not interested in the logistics. You're not interested in, you want him, he's not talking to his colleague in the office, always to the lady, because because you're not interested in the work he does. You don't know anything about IT, or you don't know anything about civil engineering and road construction and all that. So you're more interested in. You don't want to do that. That's a very dangerous thing. Yeah. You don't want to do that. So vocational compatibility. My wife is a doctor. I know all the colleagues. I know all her colleagues. I know her consultants. I know different people she works with, the speech she works. I know lots of her patients. She doesn't share things with me concerning patient confidentiality, but those patients that she becomes close to and become my friends and the surface, I know those things about the patients. I discuss all those things, and she knows much of what I do. She knows where I am at every point in time, what we're discussing, the things we're doing and all that, so that we can rub ideas together, and there's constant sharing, like you said, and this sharing always facilitates bonding, catalyzes bonding. It's a very important point. Okay, so we talk about another kind of compatibility, recreational compatibility. Throw a little light on that.
Okay, now recreational compatibility is about your hobbies, the kind of things you enjoy doing, because as you already said, sharing creates bonding. And it's not just in terms of career and all that, being able to, it's about sharing recreational activities together. Yes. The fact that, okay, we can watch football together, we can do this together, we can go to the gym together, just playing together. I think that's the word I can, playing together, enjoying those kind of activities. I'm sorry to say, my wife is a football fan.
Oh, really? Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Die-hard Chelsea fan.
Oh, wow. That is what spoiled everything.
That is spoiled problem.
That's what spoiled everything. That, Chelsea, I don't know what,
But isn't it, for example, till today I still don't watch football. I struggle to do it, and I think I've almost killed a passion for football and all that. But still, we find time. I watch movies at my free time. When I'm free, I'm done with work and all that. So we spend those times together. We create common grounds because, initially I wasn't a football fan, and then she wasn't much of a movie person and all that. But we found our common grounds around it. Because I found out that somewhere along the line, if I find someone that enjoys it, that's a dangerous place to be. Because the more you do that, you are losing your guard, you're getting closer to this person and all that. So, so a lot of times I just sit with her, we watch, and I enjoy it. I try to enjoy it.
That relationship, that interaction is what you actually end up enjoying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because the bonding that takes place.
The bonding
sometimes
that takes
you have
place,
a situation where the lady doesn't understand this. Because this is interesting, because the reverse is the case in your case, where you don't like football, the wife likes football. There are some ladies who they want to watch their soap operas, and then the man wants to watch his football, and they are in two different places. He's in the bedroom, he's in the lounge or the sitting room, or he goes out.
That's the more dangerous one.
Goes out because sometimes in watching football, it's not exciting watching it alone.
No, it's not. So
it's not exciting watching football alone. You need to watch it with, so that you're analyzing what this person should have done, even though if they give you the opportunity, you don't know what to do. But you're analyzing, this is what you should have done, this is what you should have done, this is why we bought this person, even though you didn't spend any money. This is why we bought this person to ensure that, that why is this coach living in, why is Ateta leaving this guy on the bench? Bring him on. Is this not why we bought him? So you want to start adding all this things. So you want to have that. So if the lady, for example, doesn't understand that she's with her soap operas, the guy is there bonding with, and then maybe he finds a lady who likes football like your wife.
And then they score a goal, and then
the guy hug a random girl.
So that is a spirit.
You see,
And people don't know when
they don't know when it is. A complete stranger, but you hug and there's a girl that
You're
jumping up with her like that. By the time you finish, you realize what has happened. You know, the stamp that she leaves
and then
on your chest. You know, the stamp is there. You know, and you don't want to forget that stamp. You know, so these are things that you want to avoid. You know, and you carry this. It does enter your subconscious. You carry the thing and go. You know, and then maybe by mistake you bump into the person because Satan knows how to arrange.
And then they start talking.
Satan knows how to arrange.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, bump into the person at the airport and everything, and from there you know,
start gisting about the last person
about
that
the
walks.
and the other things. You know, so these are things that are very dangerous. You know, the family that prays together stays together, but the family that plays together also stays together. So we need to understand the place of praying and the place of playing. These are very important points. You know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So as we round off this, yeah, give us the other ones. Apart from recreational,
the
there's
biological,
yes.
yes, the biological compatibility. So issues like genotype,
Yeah.
issues like the rhesus factor,
Mhm.
you know, and all that. These things are very, very important.
Mhm.
I mean, we've seen cases of people that, you know, maybe look at, for example, the rhesus factor,
Yes.
you know, and all that. You see, the woman didn't know, maybe, and she was rhesus negative, the man is
Yes.
positive,
Mhm.
you know, and then they get married. And then, of course, after the first baby might survive,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because what happens is that the body begins to treat that baby as an antigen
Yeah.
and then produces antibodies. So the first child might survive, but all the other children that will come, because the body has developed antibodies against that rhesus. So once the husband sends the baby inside, it attacks and kills them. And many times, sometimes, especially, that's why it's important for people to go for medical tests.
Yes.
You know, we've seen cases of the genotype. You see maybe two people, this one didn't know it's AA, and this one didn't know they are AA, and then they get married, they're giving birth to sickle cell children, you know, and then you have the sickness upon sickness. I've seen marriages crisis. I've seen marriages break because of this thing.
I have to.
You know, so to make sure that before you start getting all emotionally entangled and all that, to make sure that you check the person's biological makeup and to be sure that both of you are compatible biologically.
Very important.
So it's
Very important point. So we'll end with the 8th one. We've given it 7. So that biological compatibility is very, very important. And then, you know, I usually like to add this one, physical compatibility. You know, in physical compatibility, you know, it's about chemistry, attraction, and something that is non-negotiable. It's something that should not be considered negligible.
Yes,
because you need to be attracted to that lady.
Yes, sir.
Somebody said to me years ago, a servant of God I was talking to, someone I consider an older brother, said to me, he said, marry a fine woman. That's what he said. That's what he told me. He said, marry a fine woman. Because she will make you angry. That's what he told me. He said, if she makes you angry and you look at her and she's fine, you forgive her easily. If she makes you angry, you look at her, she's not fine. So the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you want to marry someone that you're personally attracted to, someone who you love, you like the physical features. You know, there are people who you can marry, you're associating with. Even the most simple things are irritating. There are people who smiles. You know, people smile differently. People will laugh differently. There's some people who you look at their smiles, you just don't like the smile. It doesn't sit well with you. You'd much rather have the person frown than smile. So how would you have that in your house every time? You know? So you know what it is that turns you on, if you will. So you have to be able to put that thing in perspective. Don't consider it a minor issue. Because the truth of the matter is that whoever you settle for, you will always find someone that isn't finer than that person, who's more beautiful or who's more handsome than that person, depending on if you're a male or female. Now, what you want to do is to reduce the number of such people you see. Because course, you will find them. But reduce the volume, reduce the percentage. If you marry someone that you're not attracted to, you're going to see many, many more people outside. And you increase pressure, inordinate pressure on yourself. There's no need for that. So sift through it and don't be so spiritual that you assume that it's not important. That would be a big mistake. Yes. So, with this we're going to round off this. And what we're trying to say is this. It's not as though if you don't have all these types of compatibility, all these 8 types of compatibility, your marriage will not work. But the fact is that the more you have, the greater the opportunities. The more you have, the greater the likelihood that you have a very blissful marriage. That's what it is, okay? So you want to invest in them. And some of them, you might already be married watching this now. Some of these things can be worked on. Some of these things can be adjusted, all right? Literally every one of them, really, if work is added, applied, all these things can be adjusted, and compatibility can be built. But it's going to take work, and you have to be willing to work it. So with this, we're going to be ending this series. There are several other principles of choosing a life partner, but we're going to be ending at this point. If you want to join in, and you want to join in the bootcamp, the inner circle, you want to subscribe and get more information concerning how to do that, but we'll have further discussions concerning that. Who knows? You might even decide to extend this series as we continue, that this will be the end of this part of the series. So if there is a response from many of you watching, listening, and you want us to pick up on where we stopped off, then we might be able to discuss the other ones, because there's so many topics that we have lined up for you, so many topics that God has also laid in our hearts to discuss, and we want to do that without causing any hindrance to those of us that are hearing, those of you that are hearing. So subscribe to the Manifest Tribe. You're going to find our details on the screen right now. Manifest_tribe. When you go to YouTube, look for the logo that you see on your screen now. Subscribe and share the links, and we look forward to seeing you same time next week. Trust you had a wonderful time in the course of this series, and we will see you next week. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much for your insights. Thank you, and thank you for joining us. I'm sure you were thoroughly blessed. I'm sure you learned so much today. All right, so we'll come again, same time next week. Until then, remain blessed.
Bless you.